Good day, everyone. Today we will continue the discussion on personality assessment and we will discuss developing instruments to assess personality. And for this topic, we will have logic, meet Mr. Rick Malone, and theory. Notwithstanding the grumblings of skeptics, there is a place for logic and reason in psychology, at least when it comes to writing items for a personality test. Logic and reason may dictate what content is covered by the items. Indeed, the use of logic and reason in the development of test items is sometimes referred to as the content or content-oriented approach to test development. As an example, let's suppose you wish to create a new test for the purpose of identifying people who are at high risk for developing anorexia nervosa. Let's call this new test the Evaluation of Anorexic Tendencies Test, or the EATT. Logically, the content of the test items would relate to what is known about this eating disorder. In writing the items for the test, you might rely on what you know about anorexia nervosa from reading, personal experience, and the accounts of others. The fruit of your efforts might be a list of yes or no questions. Efforts to develop such content-oriented or the face-valid items can be traced at least as far back as an instrument used to screen World War I recruits for personality and adjustment problems. The Personal Data Sheet, later known as the Woodworth Psychoneurotic Inventory, contained items designed to elicit self-report of fears, sleep disorders, and other problems deemed symptomatic of a pathological condition, referred to then as psychoneuroticism. The greater the number of problems reported, the more psychoneurotic the respondent was presumed to be. Typical companions to logic, reason, and intuition in item development are research and clinical experience. Another possible aid in the test development process is correspondence with experts on the subject matter of the test. In this slide, we will be seeing what a personal data sheet of Woodworth looked like. Now, let's meet Mr. Ricky D. Malone. Mr. Ricky D. Malone is an active duty military forensic psychiatrist currently serving as a behavioral science officer with the U.S. Army Criminal Investigation Command, or still known by its historical abbreviation, CID. In this capacity, his work assignments include behavioral analysis of crime scene evidence, the conduct of psychological autopsies. In this topic, he discussed the term threat assessment. And as its name implies, threat assessment may be defined as a process of identifying or evaluating entities, actions, or occurrences, whether natural or man-made, that have or indicate the potential to harm life, information, operations, and or property, according to the Department of Homeland Security 2008. The practice of threat assessment can take many forms depending upon the setting and the organization's mission. Threat assessment is both an art and a science. It requires ability to know how to use evidence-based risk factors and to integrate them with the relevant insights from the individual narrative. Effective assessment and mitigation of threat further requires the ability to work as part of multidisciplinary team with a diverse group of professionals such as law enforcement officers, prosecutors, mental health professionals, and corporate security experts. Students who are drawn to this type of work will find indispensable a firm foundation in forensic psychology coursework, and more specifically, coursework in forensic psychological assessment. The assessment they tend to rely on is what they called a structured professional judgment. And SPJ is an approach that attempts to bridge the gap between actuarial and unstructured clinical approaches to risk assessment. SPJ, as a tool of assessment, is vulnerable to criticism on various psychometric grounds, such as questionable or unknown reliability and validity. The SPJ relies on evidence-based guidelines that are directly informed, guided, and structured by the scientific and professional literature, but allows the evaluator discretion in their interpretation. The word structured in this term refers to a minimum set of risk factors that should be considered and how to measure them. However, structured in this context stops short of requiring that the identified risk factors be combined according to a specific algorithm. Unstructured clinical approaches are based on the exercise of professional discretion and usually are justified according to the qualifications and experience of the professional who makes them. And lastly, for this topic is the theory. So as we noted earlier, personality measures differ in the extent to which they rely on a particular theory of personality in their development and interpretation. For example, if a psychoanalytic theory, instead of logic and reason, were the guiding force behind the development of our hypothetical EATT, then the items might be quite different. For example, based on the psychoanalytic notion that people with anorexia nervosa are unconsciously attempting to fade away into obscurity, EATT items might attempt to evaluate this possibility, given that dreams are thought to reveal unconscious motivation. So that's the end of my report. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day ahead. And here are my references for this report.